If you're looking to develop a new product idea, then you're probably asking, how can I protect it? You don't want to put all this time, effort and money in only to find that someone else steals it or steals your market share and you don't make as much money out of it as you could. Well, this video is for you. It goes through all the critical information about protecting your new product idea. Now, if you come up with something, no matter how you're planning on selling it, whether that be a license deal, a joint venture, using a distributor, or selling direct to the customer, it's a good idea, and in some cases it's absolutely essential, to have some intellectual property protection. Now, we're going to cover how much that might cost, what the different types of intellectual property protection are, and how the process works, amongst all the other things you really need to know as a good solid introduction to protecting an idea using intellectual property rights. Now, you might be thinking, well, I can't afford to defend my intellectual property rights even if I have come up with the money to get a patent. You've probably seen on the news the high profile intellectual property cases between Amazon and Samsung, for example, over smartphones, and they clearly cost millions. But in most cases, you can actually defend your intellectual property rights for no further cost at all, or for very little cost, and we're going to talk about that as well. So please don't dismiss the idea of getting intellectual property protection on your new idea for that reason, because you can defend it for very little money going forward. And some of our clients absolutely swear by the money they spent on intellectual property rights, and they say that it's the best money they spent in the development and protection of their new concept. And in a lot of cases, it's prevented them losing a lot of market share from copycat products. The most common form of intellectual property protection is a patent. Now, a patent protects a new way of doing something. It protects new functionality. It's not about the aesthetic look, it's not about the name, it's not about the logo, it's about the new functionality or the new thing that this item does or this device does. A patent gives the inventor the right to stop others making, importing, or selling the idea for a limited time, and that's normally 20 years from the time where the patent is granted. And patents act as a deterrent as well, but obviously only if other people know that it is patented. But if you're going to try and sell your idea, for example, to a company, then you're going to want them to know that you've got some intellectual property protection. And if they think this is a great idea and they want to take it forward as part of their product range, they're going to have to pay you for it, and they can't just go off and develop it of their own accord and cut you out. Now, it's worth talking briefly about the three main types of intellectual property protection. So one is patents that we've just talked about. They're all about functionality. There's also registered designs, which are called design patents in the States. Now, these protect the look of an item. They were originally created for things like t-shirt designs that people wanted to protect. It's all about the look, and you can't protect a novel functionality. Now, also with a registered design, in my understanding, if you make 7 aesthetic changes, be them small or large changes to how it looks, you can actually potentially get round someone else's registered design protection. But that also means that someone could work around your registered design protection. And because it's only around the actual appearance of that item, someone else could produce a product that does exactly what your product does, but looks different. And you wouldn't be able to use that to stop them producing that other product. So that's the issue with a registered design. It is only on the styling. If someone else produces something that does the same thing but looks different, it isn't something that you can then use to stop them making or selling or importing that item. But they are significantly cheaper than a patent, and in some cases they're a lot easier to get. Now, a lot of our clients that we've worked with over the last 20 years actually end up with both. They get a patent on the core functionality of the product, which stops anyone else coming along and producing something even that looks different but doing the same thing. And then they also get a registered design protection on their product, which means that if someone just copies the look of it, even though it functions differently, you're still protected in that scenario as well. And on my pushchair product, we've got a patent that protects some core functionality, unique wheels that function a particular way, and a unique carry cot that I'll show you in a minute. But we also have a registered design on the overall look, so that even if someone doesn't have our unique ventilation system on our carry cot but copies the styling of our product, that we can still then go and use the registered design protection and try and get that product taken off the shelves. Now we also have a trademark, so if someone uses our logo or uses the name ARC, even though it's a completely different pushchair, then we can stop them doing that as well. So we have 3 forms of intellectual property rights on our pushchair, and a lot of innovators with new products will end up with what's called an intellectual property family of different intellectual property rights to ensure that they can protect their market share and protect their brand and their product range as they grow. Let's talk briefly then about trademarks. So a trademark can be on a logo, it can be on a particular word. So like I said earlier, we've got a trademark on the word ARC. Now, these trademarks are always within classifications or categories. So we have a trademark on ARC in nursery products. But if someone wanted to produce double glazing windows under the name ARC, then there's nothing I can do about it. But equally, I don't want to, because we're trading in the nursery industry. We're not trying to sell windows under the name ARC, so that doesn't worry me. But you do have to think about how your business might expand or how your range might expand. And Apple had one of these problems with their trademark, because their trademark for Apple was around computing equipment, but then many years later they went into music with iTunes, but they hadn't protected their trademark in that classification, and therefore they had a bit of a battle on their hands to actually gain the trademark protection in that classification as well. With intellectual property rights, they are complex, and it is on a case-by-case basis. You are always best off talking to a chartered patent attorney about patenting or registering the design of your product. You're best off talking to a chartered trademark attorney about protecting your brand or your logo or the name that you want to use. I'm not a chartered trademark attorney or a patent attorney. I'm not allowed to give legal advice. So all I can do is give you a good overview from my practical experience of the last 20 years working with innovators and originators of new ideas to protect their concepts. But it's always best with your product, once you've got a good understanding of intellectual property in general, to go and get some specific advice from someone who is legally allowed to give you the legal advice that you need on your intellectual property rights. Most chartered patent attorneys or trademark attorneys will give you half an hour of their time for free, and I would say it's worth going to meet 2 or 3 and understanding all of their advice before you select which one you want to work with. I've worked with trademark and patent attorneys for many years. If you need some names of some really good people who can support you in protecting your concept, then do get in touch with me. Let's look now at the ARC carry cot example. This is my own product. So we've been through the whole process ourselves in terms of getting the IP protection on this carry cot. Now this carry cot slots into the pushchair frame, and the baby goes in this when they are unable to sit up, so for the first, say, 6 or 9 months of life. Now the idea of a carry cot is not unique. I therefore could not protect the idea of a carry cot in general. I can't protect the idea of it clipping in and out of a pushchair frame. I can't protect the idea of a hood or a viewing window or any of those things, because they exist already. And that is one of the key things about getting patent protection. What you're trying to patent has to be unique. It can't be that someone else has already done it. It also has to be useful, and it has to be non-obvious to someone skilled in the art. So that basically means it has to be something that people actually wouldn't just naturally think of. It has to be a genuine inventive step. So what can I protect on this carry cot? Well, no one before had put a ventilation panel in the front and the back of the carry cot, so that as the carry cot was pushed along on top of the pushchair frame, you get airflow through the carry cot, which changes the air around the baby and helps keep the baby cool on a hot day. Now, because no one had done that, and it's useful in regulating the temperature of the child and keeping the child at the right temperature, and because it is an inventive step, then we were able to get patent protection on that unique feature. Now, we also registered the design of the look of the carry cot, so it is quite distinctive in terms of its look, in terms of the angles and the curves and the shapes, and so we can get a registered design on that as well. As I said earlier, the logo and the name ARC is unique in nursery products, so we were able to get that trademark registered as well. So actually there's 3 forms of protection on this carry cot. So someone can't use the name ARC in nursery products, or they can, but then we would have a trademark infringement case against them. They can't copy the exact look of this and produce a carry cot that it looks exactly the same in terms of all the different curves and proportions and everything else. And also we have a patent, as I say, on the ventilation system, so if someone copies that part of the functionality, then we have a case there to try and stop them doing it. Now, it's worth saying that we also use natural materials against a child's skin, and no other carry cot does that. But if some other brand copies that, that wasn't something that we were able to patent protect. That is deemed obvious. So just because it's a change in material type, in this case, that wasn't enough of an inventive step to get a patent. So actually another company, even though it's not done at the moment, even though it is unique, can come along and do that. And there's nothing that we can do to stop that product copying that particular feature. So hopefully that just brings it to life a little bit in terms of how you can protect your product idea.